Thanks for joining us. Please rise and join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, could we do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Dan Hahn,
Present.
Councilmember Melinda Cox,
Present.
Councilmember Julia Stubble. Present. Councilmember Josh Hahn,
Present.
Mayor White.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Lovely. All right, could I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
That's-
Second.
Great, moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. We'll do a vote. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Up to you, Melinda.
Yes.
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 Great, thank you. All right, let's move to communication from the floor. Please approach the microphone. Make sure you turn it on, the little head button. State your full name for the record. Your meetings and the comments are electronically recorded, and all comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If anyone has public comment, please come forward.
How about that? Charles Woolwine, Lander, Wyoming's first safe haven for unborn little girls and boys. Why not? Part 4. I personally detest the practice of killing unborn little girls and boys. Mayor White, I would never offer you advice about cross-country skiing. You are the expert. I know nothing about it. Councilman Dan Hahn, Councilman Josh Hahn, I would never offer you guys advice about how to put out a fire, right? Like cross-country skiing, I know nothing about it. You guys are the experts. Over the years, I've learned that when it comes to topics for which I lack expertise, it is better for me to simply seek wise counsel from the experts in that field. As for me, if I have any expertise at all, it would be in the area of biology, the study of life. I've been a biologist for over 50 years and have taught biology at middle school, high school, and university levels. Life only comes from life. Cells only arise from other living cells. Life is a continuum. Maggots do not arise from rotting meat. Maggots hatch from the living eggs of flies. When I hear people declare that human babies are not alive until they are born, well, I just know that such comments are spawned out of a vast ocean of ignorance. Beginning around 12 years of age, I don't see any too young people here, beginning around 12 years of age, boys begin producing millions upon millions of living sperm cells. It takes about 300 million sperm cells to complete the fertilization process. As for human eggs, believe it or not, when a little girl is about 8 weeks old and is this big, she will begin producing from 1 million to 2 million, and in some cases as many as 7 million egg cells. These are all of the eggs she will possess as an adult woman. Before she is born, while she is still in her mother's womb, all of the eggs that might become her children are produced. So when you kill a little unborn girl, if she is 8 weeks old, this big, and in Wyoming, you can kill unborn babies until they are around 24 weeks of age, this big, you are not only killing her, but you are also killing all of her potential children. In my opinion, not only the city of Lander, but the entire United States of America should be a safe haven for all unborn little girls and boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woolwine. Other public comment? Oh,
I don't want to see one.
okay, great.
My name's Al Grossbritton. I've lived in Lander for 47 years. I'm something that you probably will never see again. I was the first full-time telephone man in Jeffrey City, Wyoming. And from there, I have come to Lander. I have provided telephone systems and services to just about the whole county. At one time, I had close to a monopoly. But the point of what I'm trying to tell you is I love Lander, and I've watched Lander since I was here in 1979. I was here in 1984 when the mine closed, and we had 400 houses for sale. At that time, the Chamber of Commerce created a vigorous retiree program to fill those houses, to bring people that had income to come here and bring their money because we didn't have jobs. And they did. It was a great program, and we filled all these houses. Well, in the process, what we achieved was we got a lot of people in the 50s to 60s, and it saved our community. It was one of the best things that we have done. But in the process, when we filled those 400 houses, what we achieved was I can make it better. Let's do this. I got a better idea for that. And so Lander's not what it used to be, and it never will be, but that's okay. When I drive into town, I see a population of 7,200. That's what I was looking at in 1947, but it was the whole thing. Now you have a city limits which divides that, and so you don't really see what the true population is here anymore. But those biggest retirees that come, believe it or not, most of them are gone. They have died and passed away. Another thing that we have here is families that have lost and been split up the whole time and divided. And those children like you, so many, I think most of you have a college degree. So you understand that you went off to college, you got an education, but there wasn't a position here for you, so you had to go elsewhere to create what you were. In that process, you weren't able to come back home except 4th of July. What happens on the 4th of July? Our streets are full. It's a glorious time in Lander, Wyoming. But what we need to do is appreciate those that have been gone, that are trying to come back with professions. We have this LIFT program where we had the half-cent sales tax. It's gone. We don't have it anymore. Why? Because you had an extremely unanimous vote not to bring it back. Why did they not want to bring it back? Because people had variances of opinions, and I've read a ton of them. And it goes from one level to another. Sorry. But what I would like for the city to do is to create an attraction for people that have had to leave, that have lived here in the community, that want to bring a profession back to Lander. Just a thank you. We have to don't spend this money. The airports and the transportation has already received their 30%. They got a third right off the top. Let's keep the remaining balance of what's there in a thrift manner that we can keep in Lander and attract some of our younger people back to our wonderful community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else for public comment?
Councilman, I won't take too much of your time. My name's Tim Green. Was born here in Lander in 1963. Living in the house where I was born at right now on 460 Smith Street, used to be called Smith Court, the Black Edition. People don't know that because Black Homes built that. But anyway, I live there now, and for the last 4 or 5 years, before my mom died, that's the mainstream from Black Hill, which we used to call it. People used to call it Harmony Hill. I don't know what it is, but it goes down to the Baldwin Creek Elementary now. Yeah. So the only reason I'm here tonight is I'm asking you in your planning for the streets that you might consider a 4-way stop at Smith and Spriggs. Now, they come off the hill and they come down here pretty good, down off McDougal, and they turn around when they hit Spriggs, they're going pretty good. And until they hit that 20-mile-an-hour zone down there by Squaw Creek. So, I've seen this since I was a kid in the 60s. And not that this is scientific or anything, but I did have a little time because I retired from teaching a couple of years ago. And I sat out and counted cars 3 separate days. Now that seems pretty stupid, right? You got nothing better to do at 7 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Green, than count cars. 92 one day, 86 the next, and 102 the day after that. Now this is, by the way, between 7 and 8 o'clock. Okay. So they come down, roaring down that street. And I'll tell you what, I've heard some people say, well, we could put a stop sign down there at the end on Cascade, which is really stupid because in the wintertime, they're going to be coming down there trying to stop, and that's going to be pretty dumb. But the LPD has been very good about trying to put up, their 20-mile-an-hour or 25 actually on the other side going south, but coming south to north down that street every day. And I'm not kidding, one morning, 102 cars between 7 and 8 o'clock. And I'll tell you what, between 7:45 and 8, where your speeds go? They go way up.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I love the high school kids I sub over there. And yeah, they're big ones. And I'm an equal opportunity offender, but because I can say, you got your soccer moms and your soccer dads that got a phone in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other while they're driving. Back in the 60s would have been a cigarette in the other, but it's, and it's not the traffic that kills me because I can't hear anything anyway, but it's a problem. I know back in, I think, February or early March, we had a pedestrian vehicle accident there right by Squaw Creek. And so the next time you come up with planning, Spriggs and Smith Court is about halfway down. Come down the hill, boom. And I know it may cause a traffic jam or a bottleneck or whatever else, but then people may say, well, I'll go down to 9th Street and I'll go around on Main Street to get to the high school. But that street is just, boom, it's like they used to call the Jonah 500 between Rock Springs and Pinedale. It's just wham, wham, wham.
Yeah.
And I say it in the morning because it's a public safety hazard, I think. Afternoons, it's just as bad going the other way, but you don't have as many kids on the street. But in the morning between 7 and 8, you got a lot of kids.
Yeah.
If you could stop them right there just long enough to say, hey, this is 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So
Great.
that's all I have.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your time and attention. I
Thank you for
appreciate
coming, Mr. Green.
it. Okay.
Anyone else for a public comment?
I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
Oh, okay, good. All
Okay.
right, there we go. Thank you.
Yep. We'll move on to mayor and council updates if there's no more public comment. To start with Councilmember Josh Hahn.
I have nothing, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor White. Just a an event announcement, if I can steal some thunder from Councilman Larson. But the tree board, some representatives of the tree board and Mayor White yourself will be at the Garden Expo on April 26th, which is at the high school, hosted by the Papoja Conservation District, and Tree City USA proclamation will be delivered by our mayor at that event. So very exciting. That's a requirement for us for that Tree City USA designation and the subsequent funding opportunities that come with it to have a proclamation. The Energy and Environment Task Force is in kind of a brainstorming and figuring out next steps sort of mode right now, I'd say. So there nothing exciting to report there. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Cox.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be virtually this evening. I do have a couple of updates. I'd like to thank Tim Green for coming and talking about the McDougal Spriggs Smith Street. I've had a couple of constituents reach out to me in the past couple of weeks addressing this very same safety issue. And I would like to also just acknowledge that they've spoken with Lance and all have said they have a lot of good things to say and appreciate Lance's responses and just to acknowledge that there is somewhat of a traffic issue there, speed primarily being the largest issue and safety concern. Again, something that we need to be prioritizing as a solution. I don't know, I went and looked, I don't know anything about streets, so certainly would like to turn that over to somebody that does. By way of LIDA, although it's a periphery, I'm not the liaison. We are looking for board members. We need to increase our board member presence by 4 members. So if there's anybody in the audience that's dying to be involved in that, please reach out. I think I should note too that there has been a decline in board participation throughout the state as well as the country. I mean, this is a trend that's happening. So I'm calling out all the 20 to 40-year-olds that your time is now, and we do need your participation. It's not that age plays a factor. The golf course is doing some really great things. They've opened the restaurant again, and they had a soft opening, I think it was on the 2nd of April. That went really well. So if anybody has time and can go up there, we're really excited that they are having reopened that restaurant. Chamber of Commerce is moving along nicely, preparing for the summer and events as they come. And that's the completion of my report.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember
You're
Danlow.
welcome.
Oh, one more? Oh, okay.
No.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 things. First off, at the LIDA meeting, we were talking about, or the topic was zoning and housing for Lander. And so I asked the question, what type of people are you thinking are coming to town? And it was pretty interesting. They said 20 to 40 years old. And then I asked them, I said, do they want to own or rent? And they said, they don't want to own, they want to rent. And so I thought that was very interesting. And then I asked them another question. I asked them, how long do they plan on staying? And the answer I got was 8 to 10 years. Now, since the LIDA, I've talked to some of the young people in town, and some of the people that have grown up in the town want to own. But that was interesting with the types of people that they were talking about coming in. Second is LOTRA, the Lander Old Time Rodeo Association. They're prepping for 4th of July. There's a ton of things that are involved with setting that up. And also they wanted to thank the city of Lander for everything they do for them. And then I have a kind of a message from a constituent about that half-cent money, and he brought up that he would like to see some money go to that marquee at the Grand Theater. It's 108 years old. It's a historic building, and so anyway, that was a comment that I brought from outside of here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson.
Julia, I don't have much thunder to steal, so, yeah. But I am going to the Paposia Conservation District meeting there tomorrow. And other than that, Mayor, that's about all I have tonight. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. From me, a few things. I attended my first FCAG meeting last week, and they're trying to improve their program overall, including for the first time, they're working on having a personal handbook. So like that's a huge undertaking for them and definitely a smart thing to do. So impressed with that. Our latest reports in terms of employment at the Central Wyoming Regional Airport is, as we know, February is the slow month across the board, not just here. March is exceeded that, April's exceeding that, and our booking curve shows that each next month, so May is stronger than April and so on into June. So we're hoping we might actually hit that magic 25,000 employment number this year. Next week, I'll be attending the last 2 days of the Wyoming Funding Summit. This is something that's offered by Senators Barrasso and Lummis in an effort to get more of the federal dollars into Wyoming. We're one of the, I think we might actually be number 50 in the states that receive federal funding into our projects. So they are trying to increase that. So there's some, I'll be attending funding large-scale sewer and water projects. Lance, I'll bring you some info on that. And there's a couple ones on housing needs and some of those things. So that'll be interesting. Did want to notice a couple of things as well. So you may have noticed there's a few different types of things on our agenda that we typically haven't seen in the past. And part of that is our effort to be, again, ever more transparent with what we're doing. So the idea is that anything that needs a signature from the mayor to be on a council agenda, and that might be something we want to address as a work topic. For instance, things like having our liability insurance, it's something we have to have. So it's not so much a discussion point, but it's a point of transparency. So, to what extent do we want more routine business still brought up, or, anything that requires the mayor's signature? So a thought for a future work session for that. Folks who are attending via Zoom might also notice that we do have a different Zoom license after our rather unfortunate and vile Zoom bombing that happened. So folks who are not invited as panelists, like Councilmember Cox has that. Everyone else, it's more the conference style, so they have limited options in what's available. But still, it's recorded, it's posted the next morning, and that I think is an appropriate thing to do. And then lastly, I've said it before, how awesome we have 6 applicants interested in serving on city council and joining us. I think that's fantastic. I'm really impressed with that. That's it for me. Let's move to staff reports. Captain Waugh, we'll turn it to you.
I don't have much. I mean, we're functioning through in the absence of Chief Peters. I would like to I wasn't aware of this issue that's at Spriggs Smith. I can handle that with the officers in the morning in the interim. We can put someone there every morning for a little while. Lance and I have spoke about traffic data tools that we can purchase to start doing traffic studies and things. But I would like to update the council briefly on the Title II so we don't end up in the same window that we were in when we talked about renewing licenses. Bear with me, I'm battling a little bit of a cold, but with the help of Regine and Rochelle, we're pretty close to having a Title II put together to put in front of the council for approval that starts the step process with each one of them. And it's a progressive steps instead of just a blanket approve or deny. So I look forward to putting that in front of you. I think you'll be extremely pleased on the way we move forward in the future so we don't end up in this. Outside of that, I don't have anything else.
And Title II refers to liquor licensing.
Yeah, important addition. Right. She beat you to the punch. Any other questions for Captain Waugh?
Mayor, more of a comment, but thank you for mentioning the presence that you can have there on Spriggs and Smith.
Yeah.
I and Lance look forward to what you're going to update us on there too. But as a Smith Street resident who drives that during those hours with a cup of coffee and nothing else in my hands, I appreciate that very much. I know there's strong police presence up until at least Academic Way and maybe a little farther, but extending that up makes a lot of sense too. So thank you. And like I said, Lan's excited to hear what we're doing for planning. And then the Title II changes, Council, I'm super excited for us to get those in hand. Thank you for the crew that's creating it. And want to name, this is a pretty swift turnaround of feeling out in December that we had some real issues with more vagaries around Title II, around licenses and revocations and violations. So getting that much more explicit and requiring some trainings, I think can really up the game of our safety for our liquor licensee holders in those establishments. So thank you.
One more thing, as far as one of the things we're adding is we had discussed tips training, and I've been working with Tana a little bit. We as law enforcement are able to become trainers in tips as well. So I'm working with Tana right now to get one or more of my officers into the next tips training so we can provide that training free to all of our establishments that serve alcohol to help them with that process.
That's great to hear, and I'm really glad you're taking that proactive step, because that's one of the things we've, as a council has said, would be a good thing. So if there's not opportunities for employees to get that training, then we've created a barrier to businesses. So I'm glad that's happening. Thank you. All right, Lance, what have you got for us?
Yes, thanks, Mayor and Council. So just a few things. Projects are kicking off. So you've probably seen PCI is up by McDonald's, and we have one of the bores in across under the highway already, and they're working on connecting the rest of that bore underground up through McDonald's. So they're doing a good job of not interrupting traffic too bad at this point. I mean, it'll get worse as time goes on and we have to do the roadway itself, but that's moving along in steps. We're seeing High Country finish up the tank and pump station job, so they're coming to the end of their contract time. I expect to see maybe one last small change order request coming from them, but we'll see where that goes. They're doing all these small things like getting the pumps dialed in, and they do have one main crossing underneath the highway to replace on Sinks Canyon. So that's the major component of the work that they have left in the next couple weeks. And then we're going to see our other projects up by the hospital kick off on Bishop Randall here soon. The sidewalks project will start once school lets out, so that's kind of waiting for a little bit. And then Lincoln Street will be just after High Country finishes up. They've got the same crew working on the water line project as they're going to use on the street project. So we thought that maybe they would mow this week, but I'm guessing it's going to be next week that we'll see them start on First and Lincoln. So we should see a lot of construction going on this summer, and hopefully we can manage everybody's concerns and help, make sure that people can still get to where they need to be and accommodate them and make sure their trash services are still working. But a little bit of interruption, but I think they have good plans at this point, and we'll try to stay on top of all those. As far as the Smith intersection that was brought up earlier, that's one that we've looked at, especially since it's offset. Like visibility is a problem without the speed being an issue. So just sight distance, and then who has the throughway, and the way that you stop there. There's been a lot of near misses, not a lot of collisions, but we can go back and look at that data. We also have looked at Academic Way. Since that street's been added, there is a crosswalk there, and trying to get people to cross safely, looking at the patterns of the way the students use it. Also, we want to gather that speed data and then get our own traffic numbers. We certainly don't want to switch anything midstream of a school year. If we do something, it'll be this summer or potentially at a time when it makes sense, when we can talk to the school more. We have a meeting coming up to talk more about traffic changes that we're making on Baldwin Creek with the school district. So we're looking at trying to get buses off of that back route as much as possible. So if we can get buses off of that, we also want to see what that change would bring. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of arterial roads or other roads getting to the high school. So you're limited on Baldwin Creek. You've got Tiger Drive, where you can drive around the high school or coming across this way, but the connections, we really just don't have another arterial. So pushing traffic around, you're just adjusting where your traffic volume is going to show up. And, do you want more at the intersection of Baldwin and Main? Do you want more down at Tiger Drive? But the number of cars has to get to and from where they're going every day, one way or another. So we're still evaluating that. And if we come up with other options, we'll talk to you about it. We certainly don't want to interrupt speeds where it backs up or creates problems or creates additional T-bone or head-on accidents. So also aware of that. But We'll look at, studying this a little more and then seeing if a change is needed to be made or some adjustments that hopefully don't cause other problems.
Thanks for looking into all of that, Lance. And one thing I know is challenging when families have a kid at each of the schools and trying to zip from drop off to drop off. And I'm wondering if, even a 5-minute adjustment in start time at some of the schools could be one way that we impact that.
We've talked about that with busing times or school times changing. I think that they're pretty timed out as far as the way that
Yeah.
buses move around the different schools and do their pickup and drop offs. But yeah, we're always open for options and looking at, all of the different schools on ways that it could be more efficient and more safe. So we'll continue to evaluate that with the school district and have those discussions.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Mayor?
Comments for Lance?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lance. I was curious too, an adjacent topic is about the school traffic parking on 9th Street near the pool. And I know that's, we're in planning, we're looking at some redesign of that street and stop signs in that area as well. But I've had a couple constituents bring up the side that pedestrian crossing, and you and I have spoken about this, across 9th to the pool, especially challenging when buses are parked along 9th. Or even, I guess, non-buses, but buses being especially. So if you can bring that up with the school as well about some of their practices that could change. There's things we can do in design and construction. There's things we can do with police presence, and like having the school be a partner around their own policy changes too, I think would help.
Yeah, and we do have some proposed design changes in that area that we are going to talk to them about in options. They do take money when you're talking about adding parking lots in the back of the building or adding additional bus pullouts on Sweetwater so that the buses, use the side and walk over. We want to make sure everybody gets to where they are trying to get safely. That intersection at 9th and Sweetwater is another one where we've talked about reconfiguring it, making it a 4-way rather than a 5-way and stopping traffic there. That would be the safer place to have a pedestrian crossing at a stop sign, so that they're looking for it and have push button activation so that you can see it. We do get accidents at that intersection with ice often as well. So we don't want to, compound another problem in the winter if we can't mitigate that. But we are looking at those options. But we have to talk to the school district, make sure those are alternatives that they want to see. The mid-block crossings are always tough because people aren't expecting them. We are looking at having beacons that are radio frequency. So when you hit them, they bring on lights and then they flash. So it's not just during school time that we're trying to make it safer, but also anytime that that's used.
Yeah.
But when you're looking ahead, sometimes at the next thing you miss, the kids walking out on the crosswalk. So looking at reconfiguring those and some safety improvements. Yep.
Councilman Hahn?
I was just going to make a comment on that. Yeah, I think if you do put a stop sign somewhere, your timing is definitely, when they did the Jefferson and what is it, 8th, right there on the corner?
Yeah.
People were blowing that all the time, which is scary. You want to do it when there's, not a lot of kid traffic because people on that one, it took a while for people to get used to it. They didn't even see, they're just used to going down Jefferson, so they just blew right through it.
Yeah, and that's where we added a couple lighted stop signs and people like, those aren't typically used in neighborhoods, and I agree, but we had people looking at the timers and the stoplights, on a through street beyond the stop sign that was right next to them. And we're like, how do we gather their attention to, realize that something's right next to them at that time? So we've tried out these LED stop signs and trying to do things that gather the driver's attention more so they aren't gathering so much speed and a little more aware of what's going on around them.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Yeah,
call.
and the lighted stop sign on South 3rd and Garfield is one of those, but I mean, man, if you're not seeing that from 4 blocks away, I'm concerned about your impaired driving. I mean, hey, you need glasses for sure. They're pretty bright and they definitely catch attention. So,
Excellent.
sorry.
As far as half-cent money, you have about a little over $900,000. We still have some projects out that we don't know if they'll use all of their monies, but we did receive the payment through the first quarter yesterday. So that's where you're sitting at. And that's all I have.
Right, thank you. Any questions for Shari? Short and sweet? Adam?
I don't have anything tonight unless somebody has a question for me.
And Rochelle?
I wanted to remind everyone that the Wyoming Association of Municipalities Summer Conference is coming up. It's in June. Let me know if you'd like to go and I'll get you registered. Hotel information is out, so I can make that happen. I think it's June 11th or somewhere in there. I think that everyone should have an email. The other thing I wanted to mention was the 6 applicants for the Ward 2 vacancy in alphabetical order: Chad Cassidy, Carol Chidsey, Bradley Greer, Michael Holland, Joseph Lopez, and Daniel McLean. In the event that you haven't already heard, those are the 6. And there will be an interview of all 6 next week. Any questions for me?
Any questions? Okay, well, let's move to the consent agenda. Could I get a motion in a second?
Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Great, moved by Councilmember Stubble, second by Councilmember Danhon. Any discussion?
Mayor, if I may, I have 2 amendments to the minutes. If we look at the March 11th regular city council minutes, wait for you to pull those up. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not in the agenda packet. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up from the drive. So I apologize. Of the minutes, it's the second page of the March 11th minutes. And what we did is we moved in the agenda, we switched the 2 items of swearing in Mayor White and swearing in the corporals. The minutes do not reflect that switch. So I wanted to make an amendment that we change that's new business action items. I'm sorry, it's new business non-action items. So administer oath of office to Mayor White happened preceding the Lander Police Department swearing in ceremony.
Great.
Any
And did you have a?
And then the next one is much easier in the March 25th work session minutes on page, sorry, these are long ones, as they should be. Thank you, Rochelle. Oh,
There's the
I'm not
deleting the
finding the
text.
page. Shoot. There was a hanging, my goodness, Rochelle, we talked about this. Do you know what?
I do know with
Can you
painful
just let us know?
clarity.
Sorry.
It is in the discussion about, let me pull it up.
It was at the end of Ayers, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, there was
With
a-
action items to come where I had written an internal note to myself to finish that sentence.
That's right. So there was a hanging sentence that didn't make much sense. So just delete that sentence about action items to come.
So that
It
would
looks like
be
you've changed
under
it.
D.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion. We get a second? For the
I
amendment?
did just have a question on the bills and claims as it's indicated in the consent agenda.
Great, let's get a
Okay,
second on the amendment
amendment.
and then for bills and claims. Okay, seconded by Councilmember Larson. Okay, and question on bills and claims.
Thank you. I just noticed that there were several line items that had 5 entries, and so there were entries of expenditures and
Yeah.
revenue. Was that an error in documentation, or is there an explanation for the reason of the 5 entries?
I didn't see this till it was too late and there was problems. He had problems importing them. So instead of giving you a clean copy that didn't include all the voids, he brought them in 3 times, had to void them 3 times. So the total
Okay.
amounts are correct. It just looks ugly.
Yeah, no, I noticed that the totals were
Don't send
correct.
it
So,
to the paper like that.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation. That was one of my questions as well. All right, can we vote on the amendment and then vote on the consent agenda? So Councilman Larson.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Great, that passes and overall agenda. I'll start with Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Great, thank you. We'll move on to new business. Chief Sywick, come on up and give us your update. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time this evening. With me tonight, I have Assistant Chief Jeremy Bingaman as well. We're happy to provide the 2024 Fire Department Annual Report and update on where we're at with things. In 2024, our department responded to 137 calls for service, which is up from 106 in 2023. The breakdown of these calls are as follows. We had 33 fires, including building fires, mobile homes, vehicle, grass, brush, and other fires. 7 rescue and emergency services incidents, including EMS assists and motor vehicle accidents. 24 carbon monoxide calls, 45 other calls that include electrical hazards, gas investigations, canceled before arriving calls, and public service calls. And then 28 fire alarm calls. These are faulty smoke detectors and alarm systems, malfunctions, or pulled fire alarms and or other active investigations. Of the 137 calls, the fire department was on scene an average of 32 minutes and 15 seconds per call, with our average response time being 7 minutes and 56 seconds from time of alarm to time on scene. Along with these calls, the members of the department participated in 24 training opportunities that equated to 1,188 hours of training. These hours do not include outside training classes that individual members attended. As of right now, the fire department currently has 30 members rostered, and active recruitment is ongoing. In 2024, Fireman Thomas Curley resigned to serve his country as a United States Marine, and Mike Clancy also left the department. We also added 2 members onto probationary status, being Anthony Farley and Esteban Black. And then we saw a past member in Stephen Peterson moving back to Lander and rejoining the fire department. With all this time, the hours listed here, it doesn't include all the cleanup time after calls at the station, all the PR events and stuff like that. So there's a lot of extra time that the firefighters are putting in during these times. And I'd like to thank them for their continuous efforts and their significant others for what they put up with as well. So I'd also like to thank the 2024 officers, Assistant Chief Jeremy Bingaman, Captain Nick Hudson, Captain Robbie Zuspin, Lieutenant Mike Coyne, and Lieutenant Andrew Bingaman. This is the core group of guys that help lead the department. It takes all of us to make sure we're getting things accomplished, and I can't thank those guys enough for their efforts. This year, the officer corps mostly remains the same. We have a new captain in Jason Laird. He's replacing Nick Hudson. And then we have a new lieutenant in Bob Perkins, who's replacing Andrew Bingaman. For the 2024 year, recruitment was a big part of our year and continues to be as we're down on our membership. As mentioned, we currently have the 30 firefighters. We'd like to see an additional 15 firefighters to have a full roster of 45. As of right now, we have 4 applicants working through the process to join the fire department. And then we have another 3 folks looking into applying. We're on the right track of getting some folks, hopefully. And if all these individuals continue through the application process, we'll be up to 37. Another project this year is we joined forces with the Lore Foundation and Ann here with the city. The Lander Rotary Club on the carbon monoxide detector program. You guys have heard a lot about that. 300 detectors were handed out to the community members. Our involvement was pretty minimal in that. We assisted with recommendations of detectors to purchase. We did a carbon monoxide campaign, education campaign on social media, educating the public on that, and then provided a presentation to the Lander Rotary Club on the hazards of carbon monoxide. The city of Lander also went through an insurance service office audit, the ISO audit. Our fire administrator, Chris Johnson, was heavily involved in this. The audit looks at the fire protection services. It includes everything from the fire department to the water distribution systems, and then the dispatch center, communication center. We are currently ranked at a level 3, with 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, and we're in jeopardy of moving to a level 4. We're currently working with ISO on a retrogression plan to maintain a level 3 after this year. Areas for improvement on the fire department portion of this includes 2 main areas. Better documentation on our training. We're documenting it. We're documenting our hours and what we're doing. The big thing is we need to attach the standards that we're training to. So we've been able to change our forms and documentation on that to better reflect that. And then average number of firefighters responding to incidents is below the recommended standard. Again, with not having that full roster, it's hard to get a solid number of guys. For example, I think in 2016, we were one shy of having a full roster, and our average response on any given call was about 20 members. Right now, we have the 30, and our average response is about 10. So numbers definitely help us out on that. Also in 2024, we started pursuing a training building or prop. This prop is essentially a Connex type prop, but it allows us to do essential training such as ventilation, forcible entry, search and rescue, hose advancement, and many other things that currently we typically have to go out of town to train on. Through fundraising efforts, primarily from the Lander Tree event and the Lander Extravaganza, we have currently raised $100,000 for this prop. We're currently working with the Lore Foundation to get another 30,000 to get us to the finish line on that. So hopefully here in the next month or so, we'll have the funding secured and be able to purchase that prop for the future. And we hope to house that at the fire department drill field. For 2025, our focus continues on the recruitment efforts to try and get more members. We're working with Lance and Hunter to develop a true strategic plan, equipment replacement, building maintenance, and stuff like that in place to filter into the city a little better. And then the biggest area of concern for us right now going into the future is with the 25% property tax cuts from legislation. That's primarily where our budget comes from. So we don't know what that's going to look like for us yet. So unless Jeremy has anything to add, I'll stand for questions.
Turn on my mic. Thank you for coming here and giving us this board, and more importantly, thanks for all that the crew has done for so long. Do you have a few questions for you? What's your best guess as to how many volunteer hours that is being done? I mean, I know that's a hard one, so
Yeah,
I'm not going to hold you
yeah.
to it, but that's a lot of stuff that y'all are doing.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the training and just to go off that, the training hours was just shy of 2,000 total man hours. So
Wow.
I'd guess with the PR events and the cleaning and maintenance of stuff after fire calls, we'd be close to another 2,000 hours
Wow.
on all that stuff. Yeah.
That's impressive. I also want to note, great job on getting some folks in the pipeline. I know that's been an effort, and I'm really psyched that you're seeing results with that.
I
Congrats.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recently, it seems like the floodgates are opening up right now, so we're trying to take advantage of it the best we can.
Awesome. Hey, you got to do that. And then likewise, I'm so glad the ambassador event was successful for you, and having talked to a few of the ambassadors, they were really psyched to work with the fire department for all the effort and energy that y'all brought, because they needed your participation to make that event so successful. So folks did a great job
Absolutely.
with that as well. But again, for all that you're doing to keep Lander safe, again, I want to highlight the 7 minutes and 56 seconds from getting a pager to being on scene is phenomenal.
Yeah, for a
Yeah.
volunteer department, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I would challenge most folks in Lander, if I gave them a phone call and told them to be at Safeway, they couldn't find their keys, get in their shoes, and make it to Safeway within that time frame.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you. Councilman Larson.
Absolutely.
Yes, once again, thank you for you guys' service. You know, you do a great job. And the other thing, it's a tangent, and it might be to you, it might be to Lance, I'm not sure. But I've not heard the siren. What is the siren still around, or what's going on there?
So the siren is still around.
Okay.
It's hit or miss if it goes off. I know it was lowered, the volume on it was lowered, 2 years ago now? So that might be part of it.
Okay.
I don't think it changed the decibel rating very much, but it might just be some issues with how often it's being dispatched and what it's being called out for, is my understanding, John. So, some of that's, not necessarily a good thing. So we're working on it to make sure that the siren does get sounded when it needs to, but sometimes it doesn't need to be for other calls.
So like lost dogs and that kind of stuff, it doesn't need to.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
but I think when your house is on fire, that
Yeah.
needs to go, right? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Chair, if I can, if I may, thank you so much. I mean, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Assistant Chief. Thanks to all the folks on the roster. Really appreciate, of course, we can't say it enough, the service that you provide. I have a few questions. Let's see. I don't want to go to the negative stuff after Mayor White had all the positives. So I'll start with super excited. Thank you for looking for grant funds. I know that's something a lot of our departments are now doing and appreciate the initiative there. So not only grants, but also like the ambassadors, the private funding, philanthropy that can help with some of our challenges budgetarily. The carbon monoxide program was a major success. I was thrilled to hear about that, see those detectors go out the door so quickly, I know. And even, as you named here, did a lot of help and work too. So you are making the community much safer with those detectors. So thank you. I share what I imagine you're deeply concerned as well about the possible reduction in our rank, 3 to 4. Have we been at 3 for, like, how long have we been at 3? Has that been a pretty
No, so
stable number for us?
historically, we've always been at a 4 and somewhere around
Okay.
that 2016 timeframe. Pretty much everybody in the state bumped up a notch, just because of the evaluation, the audit that they did. And this audit was a little bit more stringent than the last go, so it seems like everybody in the state's in jeopardy of dropping again.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but I think we'll have no problem maintaining that 3 with the retrogression plan and working with ISO. We're getting good feedback from them currently and whatnot, so.
Thank you for being that responsive to them and
Yep.
working on that plan. I'm curious, I'm glad you mentioned the 10 average firefighters respond to calls out of a roster of 30. And I'm curious how we can help incentivize both recruitment on the roster, but also attendance at calls. It seems like there's a correlation there that you named, a very strong and important correlation, more on the roster, more able to attend. But I wonder if there's a different set of incentives we can look at, not only for roster, but for responding to the call once you're on the roster.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that. A lot of it depends on when the call comes through.
Mhm.
Currently, employers aren't as apt to let their employees leave during the workday. That's a big part of it. It's hard, and I get it. Evenings with, concerts and things like that, it's hit or miss on the response. And that's where I say the more firefighters we have rostered, the better chance we have of getting more people.
Mhm.
A lot of folks work out of town, things of that nature that makes it harder too. So as far as incentives go, as a membership, we've asked that question, and I think it's agreed upon by the membership that they're not in it to gain anything. They don't want those incentives. They have the pride of just responding and helping out when they can, but it all depends on when that call comes through and how busy people are at that time.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. I'm curious how we target, and I've heard the restrictions from our councilmen who serve not only here, but also in the fire department about the changing workforce and how perhaps that's reflected in people not having the flexibility now to leave their jobs as much. But it strikes me that Lander does have a changing workforce with a much more flexible schedule and remote workers. Speaking for myself, right, that's my situation. I know, of course, anecdotally, a lot of colleagues similar to me that actually do have greater flexibility in some workforce sectors. So I'm wondering how we target recruitment across maybe more targeted to those workforces that have flexibility, and maybe don't know about, right, volunteering for a fire department. Maybe they're new to town, to Councilman Hahn's points. Tell me more about recruitment and how we can help reach a whole range of community members.
Yeah, so currently what we're doing is we're trying to go to as many events as we can to target a wide range of people. Like last year, we were at the Garden Expo, trying to visit with as many folks, job fairs, trying to target folks at those places. Whenever there's a community event, we're gonna try to get people there. Again, we're working with their schedule, with the volunteer schedules, whether we can get a couple folks there or not. We talk to a lot of people, very few applicants come in. And part of that might be the training that goes into it, right? It's a volunteer organization, but we still have certifications we have to maintain, we have to get and maintain. And that first year on the fire department, it's well over 200 hours of training on top of everything I just listed. So there's a lot of training requirements. you know, we ask them to respond to 50% of the calls during that first year for that on-the-job training portion of it, and then the meeting requirements and everything else. So it's a big task and kind of an eye opener when people are looking at it, how much work actually goes into it. So how we target those people, I'm not sure, other than just keep getting out on the street. There is a conference coming up in Salt Lake in June, I believe, where they're focusing on recruitment and retention. So I'm hoping to maybe try and send a couple folks to that to get some feedback in ways we can improve our recruitment program.
Mayor, if I have one more, if I may. Tell me, Chief, about our mutual aid agreements and the number of calls that you've listed here, because we are responding with crews and equipment right outside of city limits, and we see then a beneficial, we see response back to our calls from other rural departments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. And does your total number of calls here include mutual aid calls?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say that proportion is?
So that mutual, I mean, we've always had a mutual aid by request put into play. For the last probably 5 to 10 years, maybe 10 calls. But towards the end of last year, we kind of went into an auto mutual aid, to where if it's anything big, structure fires, car wrecks with extrication, things of that nature, we're automatically called to them. They're automatically called for us to speed up that time of getting people there. So I'd say that out of the 137 calls for last year, I'd say roughly 20 to 25 of those are going out of town. I can definitely get you solid numbers. I just don't have them in front of me tonight.
That's close. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. And are we seeing the response from rural fire departments in coming to our calls?
We are, yeah.
I know to a degree you want to. Okay,
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. That's helpful. Well, I'll end the quizzing on if I can indulge in a daycare cuteness moment, because the siren did go off, Councilman Larson, today when I was picking up a daycare, and one of the 3-year-olds was very insistent that firefighters are out helping people. They're helping people. And so you have perhaps recruitment there in 20-ish years
There you
that I'll
go.
push, but you're appreciated across a range of ages. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I want to make a note. So one thing about the ISO rating that's important to all of us is that affects our home insurance. So if that rating changes, there's a direct impact on all home and building owners. And likewise, thank you for bringing up the concerns about the change in property tax. Since later in our agenda, we have the 8 mills for landers. So 3 of those mills are directed to the fire department. So those being cut by potentially up to a quarter, there will be impacts for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you again. Oh, Councilman Dan Hahn.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on that. Actually, I've talked to other departments. It's across the United States, the problems with volunteer departments. And I don't know where it's all going to go, but the last person that I talked to on a career fire department here, they were talking around 16 firefighters, $1.5 million a year. So it's serious, because the people don't volunteer for most volunteer things, but fire department, it'd be like volunteer police officers. I mean, that's going to work pretty good. You know, that's the thing. It's a different profession. It's dangerous. So a lot of people don't want to get involved in an incredible amount of time away from your family. So anyway, that's just my addition.
I will add one more little data point for you guys too, in regards to our department. Right now, of our rostered firefighters, 3/4 of them have 15+ years of service. You know, Councilman Hahn's approaching 40 years, or at 40 years. We have another guy over 40 years, one around 35. So we have an aging department with no young folks coming on. So if we start losing some of these senior guys, we'll be hurting. As far as age, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, all right.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. So Speaking of mill levy, that's next on the agenda. Approve the second reading of ordinance 2025-4, fixing and determining the mill levy necessary to be levied to raise sufficient money by general tax to meet the current expenses of the city of Lander for fiscal year commencing July 1, 2025. Could I get a motion and a second, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Moved by Councilman Dan Hahn.
Second.
Second by Councilman Josh Hahn. Any discussion? Okay, we'll move to vote. Councilman John Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Likewise, moving on to the next one, approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2025-3, Quest Corporation DBA CenturyLink QC franchise agreement, granting a franchise to Q West Corporation DBA CenturyLink QC on behalf of itself and its affiliates, CenturyLink, to operate and maintain a telecommunications system in the city of Lander, Wyoming. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Larson, seconded by Councilmember Stubble. Any comments or questions? No? Okay, call for the question. We'll start with Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. All right, moving on to new business. We've got a bunch of vehicles here, and Lance, I think these are largely going to be yours. So first we have award invitation to bid E0125 for 2025 Ford F-150 4x4s to the low bidder Fremont Motor Company, and the total amount of $124,197 for all three vehicles, and authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award for 2025 Ford F-150 4x4 vehicle purchase agreement. Let's do the motion in second first, then we can have discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Stubble, second by Councilmember Dan Hahn. And Lance, now fill us in, please.
Yes, Mayor and Council. These are bids out of our equipment replacement plan. So it's our 5-year plan that we're trying to replace different vehicles. I'll just talk about A, B, C, and D in one shot, and then you guys can ask me questions. So the first one are 3 new pickups. Those are to replace aging work trucks that are having issues that need to come out of the fleet. And so these will replace those so that we can circulate through other trucks. The next one are the Dodge Durango's police fleet. So 2 of those. Oh, sorry, that's the City Hall vehicles, excuse me, is the second one. So those will replace 2 vehicles here. Those vehicles will cycle down into other uses, into the police department. So those will become detective vehicles from City Hall as we move vehicles around. The third one are the pursuit vehicles for the police department. And the last one is a new traffic control vehicle, and then the traffic control vehicle that's at the street shop now will become the new trash truck for the Parks and Rec Department. So the vehicle we're getting rid of is actually the current trash truck. It's having issues with safety and probably it does need to leave our fleet. And so we'll take the vehicles that these replace and we'll turn them into surplus and then put them through auction if you approve them tonight. We were informed that this is probably the lowest price you're going to see on these vehicles for quite some time. So we can expect through tariffs that these are going to increase significantly if we don't award them now and that we wait and we put them out at a later date. So happy to answer any questions about vehicles you guys have.
Councilman Larson.
Yes, I was just curious, how many different bids do we get on these? Or where have we got our bids from?
So there was a bid tab in the packet. The F-150s, I believe there were 3, I think Fremont, Grenier, and some place out of Utah.
Yeah.
And on the Durango GTs, there were 2. On the pursuit vehicles, there were 2. And the 3500, there were 2 as well.
Okay. And then I was just curious on the pursuit vehicles. I was looking through the specs. It just showed a console and some other stuff. Is there any other cool stuff that's on your pursuit vehicles that?
We equip them locally once we get them, and we work with a company out of Riverton that will go through that process. So it does get lots of bells and whistles, but that's specified to match the existing equipment that we get. And then also, we like to stay local with that versus outsourcing it. In case something happens, we can run it in for warranty purposes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so it'll have lights and sirens and all the good
Won't
stuff.
Had a hot engine or anything.
They're fast, aren't they? Yeah,
Okay, that's cool.
we can take you for a ride.
Yeah.
Front seat or back seat?
Do I have to be in the cage?
What? Yeah, we'll vote on that, John.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for all that explanation. And again, I think back to the value of strategic planning, right? This is one of the things several years ago we said was one of the things we needed to work on, and having a thoughtful vehicle replacement plan. And so the idea of things being purchased at the appropriate time, and then things being passed to other uses within the city, I think we're seeing benefits from that process. So, okay, any other questions on the first one? All right, call for the question. We'll start with Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 All right, moving on to award invitation to bid E0225 for 2025 Dodge Durango GT all-wheel drive vehicles to the low bidder Fremont Motor Company in the total amount of $80,992 for 2 vehicles, and authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award and 2 2025 Dodge Durango GT AWD vehicles purchase agreement. Can I have a motion in a second?
Make a motion.
Second that.
Great, moved by Councilmember Josh Hahn, seconded by Councilmember Larson. Comments, questions?
Just one quick comment. You know, I'm just really pleased that that we've got local people that's getting the bids on these.
Yeah,
That makes me feel good.
great. All right, let's call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 All right, motion passes. Award invitation to bid E0325 for 2 2025 Dodge Durango Pursuit vehicles to the low bidder of Fremont Motor Company in the total amount of $80,702 for 2 vehicles, and authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award and 2 2025 Dodge Pursuit AWD vehicles purchase agreement. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Larson.
Second.
Okay, I see Councilmember Hahn's light on, so we'll go with Councilmember Hahn for that. Comments, questions?
I do, please, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, what's the process on the, like, patrol vehicles and even the city employee vehicles on the replacement stuff? Is it all safety related issue stuff, or do you go off of mileage or years? Type?
A combination of all. So we have software that documents the number of service orders on our vehicles, looks at the age, looks how much we're putting into it, also looking at the value of the vehicle. And then when we're starting to have major issues with that. So if we're having motor failures or issues that don't make sense for us to continue to put money into those vehicles, you know, that's when things start to cycle out. We're getting a lot less people who can drive standard transmissions,
Yeah.
you know, and so that's where we have a couple vehicles that, which are surprising that I'm one of the old people that can still drive, you know, as standard, but, you know, some of that where we look at what the vehicle's use is, how many miles it's getting, can we consolidate? But there's a lot of decision-making going into it. Police fleet's a little different. We have some criteria on years and mileage that we go in on those, so we don't want to exceed a certain amount of mileage. And then we're also trying to get some replacement value at the back end out of some of these. So if there is resale, hopefully that'll help buy the new vehicles. So quite a bit going into analyzing the program when something comes out. A lot of these are still safety related, like do they have seat belts? You know, should we put a kid in these in the summer? Those sort of questions still.
I know Pursuit, if they're anything like highway patrol, they get used, so
Yeah.
I fully understand that. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, we'll call for the question, starting with Councilmember Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Right, motion passes. Next, award invitation to bid E0425, 2025 4x4 Ram 350 cab chassis to the low bidder Fremont Motor Company in the total amount of $52,732. Authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award and 2025 4x4 Ram 3500 cab chassis purchase agreement. I get a motion in a second.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Danhon, seconded by Councilmember Stubble. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 All right. Thank you. Motion passes. Next, authorize the mayor to terminate WBC Wyoming Business Council BRC grant for Table Mountain Living Community Infrastructure. I know this was Regine, who's not here tonight. The gist is, despite trying to recontact folks, that we do not have an interest in someone trying to operate this at the current construction prices. So need to terminate the grant for that. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Stubble. Any questions, comments?
Man, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. So I know this was like a big deal for everybody, you know, because it is an
Yeah.
important facility. They've got that facility up in DuBois that was previously closed. Is there any way to work through like the county or different entities to try and get that thing up and function? It's a brand new building, I believe. And it's like 20, I can't remember the bed amount in it, sorry, but.
Yeah, fairly new facility, you're correct on that, and it would be wonderful to see that. I don't know about who owns that or how it's operated or any of that, but likewise, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that at some point we can have this level of care somewhere in the vicinity.
Right, at least
So,
it'd be, you know, fairly close.
yeah, closer than Denver.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
I mean, I want to mark the moment, right? I think it's a really regretful 2 items of business here that we invested significant planning and design and grants solicitation, awarded grants to pursue this project. So it's just really regretful that we're at the point where we have to say, no, not right now, and put it back on the shelf. Sometimes you take a risk and that's what happens. Conditions change that we weren't, foreseeing. And so but it sucks. It's the summary of it, I guess, right? That like this is clearly an important need. The feasibility
Yeah.
shows we need this here in our community. Economic benefits to Lander, if it was in Lander, are manifest. And so I hope that it doesn't gather too much dust on the shelf while we wait to see if conditions change in ways that operators would be more interested in coming here. Or we have other entities that want to take on the responsibilities and burdens. We looked under every rock. I know Regine and others did as well. To try to figure out here at the last chance, once we figured out that the housing authority couldn't be the oversight, have oversight, who else could do it? No one was found. So I hope it doesn't gather too much dust. The need is not going to go away. It's only going to increase. I hope that economic feasibility remains, there as well, and that we can find somebody else again in coming years.
Yeah. Thank you. I echo those sentiments for that. Yes, Councilman Danhon.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. I totally agree with you, but from the beginning, everything got laid out and it just was falling apart from the beginning. Everything just started crumbling and the people that were working on it, I mean, the people that were working on they're some of the smartest people in Lander.
Hard.
And when they can't get a project going, I know those people, when they can't get a project going, even though it hurts to bail, it's definitely for the best. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Other comments, questions? Okay, we'll call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Next, approve resolution 1353, revoking resolutions 1203 and 1329, removing the authorization for the Lander Housing Authority to manage the Table Mountain Living Community Housing Project. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Moved by Councilman Josh Hahn,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Danhon. Comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. All right, next we have approved Wind River Visitors Council fiscal year 26 budget. We do have Executive Director Helen Wilson here. So please come join and we'll still do the proper with get a motion in a second, and then we'll turn it over to questions, and you likely have some information to share as well. So I'd entertain a motion, please.
Mayor, I move on approval of the Wind River Visitors Council fiscal year 2025, well, I'm sorry, it's fiscal year 2026 budget.
Thank you. I get a second.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Stubble, seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. And now we'll have discussion, or maybe we'll open it to you first for an overview of what you've got planned.
Great, thank you for having us here. My name's Helen Wilson, Wind River Visitors Council. We also have Owen Sweeney. He is he's our chair. He's also the Lander representative. And I'll just go through some of the highlights. One thing we do with our budget, which we've been doing the past few years, is using the previous full fiscal year's revenue as the following year's budget. So that number is 994,034. We will not receive a Destination Development Program grant. That's an every other year program. So we're still spending the money from this past July. And that would be partly the wayfinding project that we're doing in Lander. Some of the other big pieces, we have struggled a little bit with our staff this year. So we're playing a little bit with that number. We've been successful in getting part-time staff, but they seem to rotate. People go back to school, people move. So I'm currently the only full-time employee. We have a couple of part-time people. One of them is an intern who will be moving into a part-time position. But this number is a little bit in the air because our administrative assistant just went back to school. So we're figuring out staff still. As for the Tourism Asset Development Program, 25% of the revenue goes toward that program. And then we distribute it to in Lander, it's the Chamber of Commerce, based on the percentage that they contribute to that. The TAD program is actually up, but Lander is receiving slightly less because it went from 32% to 30.36%. And I think a lot of that is to do with Riverton, just really having a lot of accommodations and people choosing to stay over there. One of the really big projects we're doing this fiscal year is rebuilding our website. The website is a few years old. It's a little bit dated. I had done quite a bit of research on companies that we could use. And after going to a conference and talking to the Wyoming Office of Tourism, they're using a company called SimpleView. And what's really neat about that is if we go with SimpleView, then everything will integrate directly to their site. So we can have local businesses plug in their information, or we could plug it in for them, and then it will automatically go to the Wyoming Office of Tourism site. Same thing with events, and there's a lot of other benefits to being in that SimpleView system, I'll call it. The other places in the state that are using that, Laramie, Jackson Hole, Casper, Cheyenne, so Sheridan. So all of the bigger places. I'm a little bit nervous about it. We haven't done a website rebuild before, but it's a big project, and that's why that number is significantly higher. The other thing we're going to do this year is some advertising in the Denver airport. And we're going to have the banner that is right above the escalator that goes down to the train, and we're going to have it for the holiday season. They've got it penciled in for now. I had looked into this about 3 years ago, and the price was ridiculous. It was $300,000 or something. And for some reason, after numerous conversations with them, we've managed to get it to a relatively reasonable rate for the holiday season, which would, we get it for 2 months, so it would start before Thanksgiving and it would end in January.
Wow.
But I'm pretty excited about the placement. Last time I was in the airport, I was walking around looking at all of the different options. And that's what stands out because people are stuck on the escalator and they've got that big banner above them. We're also going to invest a little bit more into market research and analysis. And this is specifically a program that was previously called eStar. that gives us a lot of hotel data. And not only does it give us the occupancy rates and the trends, but it also gives us contact information for the hotels. We hadn't subscribed to this before because they need at least 3 reporting hotels in a community before it actually shows up on their reports. And so we could have gotten information for Riverton, but nowhere else. Now we can get information for the entire county, and we'll be doing that. We've also written in air service marketing for 30,000, which is what we put in this year as well. This year, we also ended up putting in 20,000 of the destination development funding for the minimum revenue guarantee. We aren't able to do that with lodging tax, but we are able to do it with destination development funds. So we can't add that in again. We've also switched up a couple of things. We have a new opportunities line in the marketing campaign that's for projects that come up throughout the year. And we often get marketing projects, but we sometimes get projects that aren't marketing related. For example, we are doing a resident sentiment survey, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. So we've split that up a little bit with a new opportunities fund and a board discretionary fund that's not so marketing related. Because a lot of this has to do with us being understaffed, but we do have money in the bank account that we would like to spend. So we've moved over $200,000 that will help cover the website rebuild and the airport marketing. So that's the big budget part there. But I did want to go over just a couple of other things. The budget you're seeing in front of you has only been surpassed 1 year, and that was what's called, it's revenge travel year, which was the year after COVID, which was the highest year we'd ever had. I will say that the current fiscal year, we're actually looking to even beat that. So the numbers are really high. We had another audit this year, had no findings. A little bit about the lodging tax. It will go on the ballot next year. Last time it was on the ballot was 2022, and we had, for the county, 72% vote in favor of renewing, 79% in Lander. So Lander was really in favor of the lodging tax, higher than any of the other communities in the county. I did put in your packet our lodging tax revenue, and as you can see, we are looking very high for the current fiscal year. I did just get the numbers for March, and those are down, unfortunately. I think there's just a lot of uncertainty right now surrounding travel. However, even if the next couple of months are also down, we are still looking really high. We're almost at 900,000 right now. So, and we haven't even hit the busy season, which usually starts in May. Some of the big projects we've done this year, we worked for a couple of years with both tribes, the Eastern Shoshone and the Northern Arapaho, to get approval and then put together a video about powwows. The reason we did this was half the phone calls we receive are people who want to go to a powwow, and often people don't understand what a powwow is. It's, it's an actual event. It's not at a street corner all year round. And we wanted the tribes to be able to talk about what the powwow is. This is a 7-minute video that turned out really well. It was approved by both tribes, and it's currently on the homepage and the Wind River Indian Reservation page of our website, and it's getting a lot of attention. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely worth checking out. We also put a kiosk, and this is Destination Development Program money. We put a kiosk on the Wind River Indian Reservation. Provides a lot of information about the reservation. It's under the gazebo at the Frank B. Wise Business Center. If you want to check it out from your home, we actually got the domain name windriverreservation.com, which was available. That's what the kiosk looks like. So it's actually a website that feeds to the kiosk. We don't really advertise it as a website because it looks like a kiosk, not a website, but you can check it out from home. It also links to our events calendar. Another big project we've been working on that Ann Even from the city has been working really hard on this with us is the wayfinding signage project in DuBois, Lander, and Riverton. We had hired a contractor to go through, figure out where the signs should go, what they should look like. We did all kinds of boards and graphic design and worked with a consultant to put this together. The project is now with Wyoming Signs. We're in the final stages. We've gotten final permissions from YDOT, and the signs will be going in this summer in all 3 communities. There was a little bit of question of whether we'd be able to do the whole project at once because we weren't able to get the final quote until this week. But we will be able to do all 3 projects this summer and hopefully add in some 3 locations in both Hudson and Shoshone. The signage is beautiful. If you haven't seen it, it's very community specific, but the whole county has a similar look. So you know you're in a different community, but you also realize you're in the same county. We are doing a resident sentiment survey. We're releasing this as part of National Travel and Tourism Week, which takes place from May 4th to 10th. This is a survey that we've worked with the University of Wyoming on. We're using many of the same questions that the US used for their survey so that we can compare how we are to the rest of the country. I think it's going to be really interesting to see resident sentiment in the county as well as in each individual community. That's going to launch in May. We also released a podcast last May, and we've done quite a few features in Lander. One of them was the recent International Dark Sky designation in Sinks Canyon State Park. We did one of the Boulder Choke Cave in Sinks Canyon. We did one of the whole county and exploring the local food scene, and we featured Meadowlark. But that podcast comes out the 4th Thursday of every month, and it is a lot of fun, and it's been great. And I just talked a while, so I will see if there's any questions from you.
Great. Council questions. Councilman Larson.
Yes, I've been trying to go through the papers there, and you talked about the banners there at DIA. So what did you finally end up with the price on?
I think it was just under 70,000 for the two months.
Okay, from 300,000.
300,000, and I think it was I think it was 40,000 for 1 month, and then we get a discount for doing the second month.
2 for
And
1, huh?
2 for
Yeah.
1, and I have reserved it. They penciled it in for the holiday season, but because of our joint powers agreement, we don't actually spend any money or commit to anything until the budget's approved.
Okay, thank you.
And will the banner feature the powwow in some way?
You know, I have been going back and forth on because we only get one shot at it, and it has to be the same because a lot of the cost is the installation. And I think the powwow would be really good. But another idea that I've had, and this came to me when I was actually at the airport a couple of weeks ago, is I think a lot of people seem to be feeling frustrated with just a lot of things right now. And I was thinking about when you're a kid and you go camping and taking people back to that feeling of, smelling trees or, feeling different things when you're camping. I always picture climbing a tree at a campsite. And I think it was actually by Yellowstone when I was a kid. Me and my sisters would try to get as high as we could in case a bear came. We would practice climbing the trees. So I was trying to capture that feeling. And one idea I've come up with is to have, and not, this is just an idea so far, but to have somebody going down something like the Paposha Falls, like a boy and a girl who are kids with their arms up and screaming, and then just say something like, do you remember your first flight? Because it's the airport. And just to try to capture that feel. But there's also the powwow, and there's only so much you can put on these banners. But I've definitely been thinking about it because we do want to get it right. It's not a cheap campaign.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have some time. The company wants the commitment, but they don't need the copy until the fall.
Thank you. Other comments, questions?
Mayor, for me.
Councilmember Stubble.
Director Wilson, thank you. The budget looks good. Really important work for our economy. I'm curious about the board discretionary fund that's new this year. Is that, how will you allocate that? Is there an amount per board member? Board members vote by majority? What do you?
No, it's really just involving the board more in some of the decisions that are made. With the new opportunities funds, people come to me and say, hey, we're doing this project. And, I look at it and see if it qualifies. And this is more getting the board involved, things that aren't so much marketing efforts. things where we can get a committee going. And we haven't done it before, so I'm also curious how it's going to work out. But last year we had a significant amount of money in the new opportunities, 50,000. And now it's down to the 6,469, but we have a big plan for this year's marketing campaign. And so a board member had brought it up and we wrote it into the budget.
Yeah.
It's always good to have board members involved too in some of these decisions.
Yep, agreed. And you have a pretty remarkable board, so thank you to those who are on it for the city, Lander, and other places. Do you feel like board training really pays off for functionality in the board?
I do. And the board training, this past year, we did board training to create our new strategic plan. But there is a man named Bob Harris who is nationally known for doing board trainings. And we've got all of his printouts and all of his material that we use, but we actually would like to bring him in. And so the number that's reflected here is his price plus his flight. I think he's from the East Coast, but he's a speaker often at destination events. And he's the kind of person who kind of tells it how it is and catches things. And he's very vocal and knowledgeable and highly respected.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for what you're doing for Lander.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, call for the question, starting with Councilmember Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Wonderful. Motion passes.
Thank
First-
you.
First of many steps, I know. So,
Hudson passed tonight too, so.
Oh, good. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. All right, moving on. Authorized renewal of employee health insurance plan administered through Wyoming Educators Benefit Trust, and authorize the mayor to sign employer selection and employee contribution split for fiscal year 2025, 2026. Going to get a motion in a second, and then we'll turn it over to Rochelle, I think, for more information.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Dan Hahn. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Stubble. And Rochelle, I think this is you.
This renews the employee health insurance benefit for the next fiscal year. That includes Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming, Delta Dental, and VSP Vision. The insurance cost is going up 3% this year, which isn't, last year it went up 11%. So we were really excited to see a 3% increase, to be honest. And the split traditionally has been 84-16, and that's reflected the same as in the packet. So we're just asking for authorization to go ahead and renew with WebT, Wyoming Educator Benefit Trust, to provide the insurance for our employees.
All right. Comments or questions about this?
One question, Mayor. if I
Yes,
may.
Councilmember Stubble.
Clerk Fontaine, do you find quite a bit of, what Rich has asked, what's the degree of employee satisfaction with the programs that we provide?
So no one's ever super happy with the deductible amount.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's a reflection of how much you want to pay for a deductible amount. Shari and I have looked at transitioning to the state of Wyoming's insurance because municipalities can now join that. I can't remember the exact year, but I want to say 2015 or 2019, the Attorney General wrote an opinion allowing other government entities in the state of Wyoming to join that insurance pool. That is Cigna, Delta Dental, and also VSP, and they do offer different levels of deductibles that employees could choose. The drawbacks with that, or they have a couple different rules. We would be required to offer insurance to seasonal people and some different avenues there. Also, when you sign up with that program, you are locked in for 5 years and you don't know what those rates are going to look like for 5 years. So we've been watching the numbers, trying to decide when that might be an economic benefit for the city to look at. How happy they are with insurance. I believe once you hit your deductible amount, it pays about the same as what the county's insurance does, for example, because that's the plan I'm on with my husband. And from what I see, it pays about the same at that point. So once you hit your deductible, it can kick in, but like everything, there's, oh, that's part of your copay, that's part of this,
Yeah.
part of that. Overall, the feedback that I receive is varied. We really like Wyoming Educator Benefit Trust. They're very responsive when we reach out to them. The customer service piece is very nice. They come in person once a year to talk to us. They're very easy to get a hold of on the phone. If we have problems with explanations of benefits or things of that nature, they really have a nice customer service piece in Cheyenne and reach out to the companies directly to help us with that. But I haven't heard that they don't pay as they say they will pay in their summary benefits.
Thanks. That's informative and glad to hear you're always keeping an eye on with other options and researching the pros and cons there of joining the state system. Thanks.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Okay, call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Next, approve S-25.01 replat of Trospers Edition, Block 116, lots 15 and 16. Lance, are you stepping in for Regine on this one?
I'd be happy to. It's a simple lot line adjustment. I guess the next two items I'll talk to them both about at the same time. So a property owner who wants to do a subdivision and adjust those lot lines, there's a building in the back that's completely in the alley or a large portion of that. That's been there prior to platting, and I looked and that was 1905. So that's been there a long time. So our plan for that is to give a license. If that ever gets rebuilt, it gets built correctly, but then they get granted the license in order to have that property continue to exist in that way. The alley doesn't go through, it's not accessible, but not fair to ask them to move it at this time. So this has gone through staff comments as well as planning recommendation, and it's ready for your approval, and happy to answer any questions.
Just to clarify, so if something were to happen in that building, they don't get to rebuild partially in the alley anymore?
Correct.
That was, okay.
Yeah,
Wanna make
that's what
sure that-
our license ends up saying, that if, a certain point is destroyed or you're rebuilding or changing it, that it needs to be built off of our setbacks and in the correct location.
Okay, great. All right, other comments or questions about this? Okay. Councilman Larson.
Mayor, I don't believe we made a motion on
Oh.
that, but I
yeah,
will. I
yeah,
move
Thank
approval
you.
of the
Moved by Councilmember Stubble. Can I get a second?
Sure.
Councilmember Larson seconds enthusiastically. We'll call for the question now. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 All right, now, item J, authorize mayor to sign alley encroachment license for Trospers Edition replat S-25.01. Could I get a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
Nice tag team there, gentlemen. Moved by Councilman Larson, seconded by Councilman Danhon. Comments or questions? Okay, call for the question with Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 And motion passes. Next, K, authorize renewal of local government liability pool liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 2025-26 in the amount of $41,727. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved, Mayor.
Moved by Councilmember Stubble,
Second.
second by Councilmember Josh Hahn. And I think this is back to you, Rochelle.
As the council is aware, the city carries liability insurance as well as property insurance. We are putting the property insurance out to bid for a 5-year cycle, hopefully very soon. The liability insurance is a bit of a unique creature in Wyoming because of our Wyoming Governmental Claims Act. We have used, we being the city of Lander, LGLP, which is a local government liability pool, for a number of years. They have on staff 3 attorneys and a paralegal. I did fill out the application because you can't get the cost without filling out the application, putting down what properties you have, things of that nature. Toria Racinas, who is sort of the managing member of LGLP, I would say, was in town today, and I had a conversation with him for about a half hour to 45 minutes talking about things that are specific to Lander. It's the staff recommendation because of the specific niche the local government liability pool has, and it's a statutory creation in the state laws that we would renew our liability coverage with them.
Comments or questions about this? Okay, calling for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Moving on to L. Approve and authorize the mayor to sign Amendment 1 to Project Agreement Lander Well and Transmission Pipeline 2021, increasing the appropriation and extending the reversion date. Could I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Struble,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Larson. And Lance, I think this is you.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we've talked about this project several times. It's the one that's gotten significantly more expensive on us to equip these wells and install them for our emergency backup and additional water. This gives us more time to potentially look for a grant or look at other options. We've talked to Water Development about putting this on pause, but this gives us more time to see if we can come up with ways to make this work. Right now, we're committed so much with our funds right now on the streets projects we're doing over the next several years and using our monies that we're gathering through our water program through that it doesn't pencil out to put this project out for bid and to keep moving. So we've looked at value engineering, looked at options of doing one well or ways that we can make it work within the budget. But right now our rate increases aren't even keeping up with inflation and construction costs. So this one most likely is getting a pause or hopefully some other source of funding, but this gives us a little more time to keep looking at that project. We could potentially go back to Water Development if they run into more money and ask for a bigger match or find a different program. So would like the extension so that we can keep looking, but may come back at some point and say we have to put this one on pause.
Thank you. Comments or questions on this one? Oh, okay. We'll start with a call for the question, starting with Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Item M, authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding between Wyoming Department of Health, Behavioral Health Division, Wyoming Life Resource Center, and City of Lander. Could I get a motion in a second, and then we'll turn it over to Lance.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Councilman Dan Hahn,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Stubble. And Lance, fill us in.
Sure. This is the MOU between the city and the state on letting a line get relocated where they had built a building over it. And so we have a sewer force main that serves them that is actually somewhat our ownership. And we're allowing this agreement to be the understanding between the two parties as to what's going to happen and to allow that work to take place.
Comments or question on this one?
Mayor,
Councilmember Stubble.
thank you. Dr. Hopkin, maybe it's too basic to ask, but why did they build a building on it? And did we know?
Oh.
When did this come to light?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so with the health department, we don't oversee their construction. And we're doing better now as far as what we look at, as far as what projects are being performed on different properties. And so this infrastructure was originally agreed upon when the lagoons got built or went away, excuse me, for the Wyoming Life Resource Center, and they tied into our system that the city operates the lift station and the line back to town, and then they operate the rest of the system, and then the piece that breaks apart the stuff coming down the main. So it was an interesting agreement that I could never find. As part of this building being built over the top, the agreement finally surfaced to understand that that was our ownership. But when I don't know if they called for locates or what happened as far as trying to find utilities out there, but it just got planned and built and designed out underneath the state's umbrella without involving us. And then pulled open a plat one day as we're talking about it. And I'm like, they're on top of our line out there. So that's how it came about, was just simply through aerial photos and what happened. And they had to be within, we figured 16 inches to finding that line, which would have been a real mess at that point. But it just happened because of the lack of oversight in some of those. And now with our building department being more involved, and we're taking a look at those drawings and working, on our side with review, we should be able to identify those issues before they happen.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Next up, item N, authorize the mayor to sign contract number 246679, mineral royalty grant agreement between State of Wyoming, Office of State Lands and Investments, and City of Lander MRG Grant 25006 for flood protection design not to exceed 300,000. Could I get a motion in a second, and then we'll move to discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Stubble. And Lance, I think this is another one for you.
I'm busy with Regine gone and Hunter not here tonight, but yes, this is a help with the design of the lower end from the bridge down, as we've talked about the flood improvement project. So this is Strike Consulting Group who has that project. They're working away on it, but this is grant to help us pay for design of that, some of the design of that project. Have to answer any questions.
Mayor.
Councilman Larson.
You said this is a partial payment. Do you have an idea of what the total amount will be, Lance?
We have it hopefully under $500,000 is the total cost. We have to get to apply for a FEMA brick grant. We're moving through this process as fast as possible and have several steps and several alternatives. They're at 10 to 15% already, so they're moving quicker. It's an hourly rate that we pay upon based on getting the work done, but have put in that $500,000 as an estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
One thing I was impressed to note the extent to which this is affecting the farthing slip. 8 feet a year is, I mean, I don't know much about that, but it seems like an awful lot. So I'm glad we've got, I know it's not just that, but it's other areas as well, but that's, this is extensive, and part of it is proactive. If there's upstream flood mitigation, that's only going to exacerbate what's happening there.
Yeah, and I guess the conversation I had today was really impressive as far as mapping and modeling goes. It seems like the Corps is kind of taking a back seat now to Strike's subcontractors out of Montana who have put together a pretty awesome model from the top to the bottom. And I guess the Corps was using older imagery where now all the survey has been patched together with the newer survey data out there. So it's like, okay, they know what they're doing. They're moving on it. We were all getting a little frustrated with some of the Corps meetings of not making production. So hopefully it helps with that upstream portion and gives us an idea what total project costs could be so that we can see if those governor's discretionary funds are available and a brick grant match. I mean, I think that's what we're shooting for, as well as our state partners being involved. So that's the way I see this being affordable, is having outside money pay for the majority of it and not a lot coming from our local coffers.
Right, and there's a deadline for the governor's discretionary fund, which I think is November 1st. That's part of why this is happening now. Councilman Danhon.
Now, all of the monies that we're spending on all this engineering, does all this go toward the 35%?
The 35% like cost share, or what are we?
Well, this is all flood mitigation, and with the flood mitigation project as a whole, does this, I know there was, the parks they came into the picture of kind of in that payment, but all this engineering right here, these dollars are part of the 35%?
No, they're not. And so these dollars are separate, but what we're trying to do is put together an entire upstream downstream solution other than what the Corps is producing as they work on their project. And then lower the local cost match. So we're looking even trying to not get 66%, but get in the 80 to 90%, if not more, of less being paid for out of local dollars. So I think the goal here, because the price is going to be so expensive to make these changes on fixing the river all the way through town, it's going to be a major project, is to lower the local match to as little as possible to make it affordable. So what we're looking at is a federal grant that's, a higher cost share, federally, and then state money is going in, and then state partners and other partners who could contribute to this. So trying to see if we could get either a phase project or an entire project figured out that we could actually do.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Larson.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting to actually see something moving on this. And I was just curious, do you have an idea of when the council could get at least a preview of what they've got planned?
Yeah, I can talk to the engineers and we can bring them in for a work session if you'd like. So what I'd like to do is bring in a couple of alternatives, and I don't want to get the public excited because some of these alternatives look, they're going through private property, to be honest. And so we haven't talked to private property owners, or it's not the final solution. So we don't want to scare anybody, but we can certainly talk to you about options and alternatives. Those discussions will come later as we actually decide on a project and a direction. So going to try to approach you with at least the overview and discussion on what that would look like, but probably need to talk to those property owners a little bit too, to let them know what we're looking at so that they're not scared when we have a public meeting about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, call for the question. Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Moving on to O, approve and authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1 for the McFarland Utilities Project, increasing the contract price, $57,925. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Larson,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Danhon. And Lance, I think this is back to you.
It is. I apologize for this. This is no fun to see change orders right out of the gate. What we have is a line that was connected past YDOT going back down into this McFarland Drive line that we'd never want to see opened. It would create a pressure problem, delivering a higher pressure to a lower portion of the system. And we kept that in service because we were going to have to keep the parks watered. So that's what the only service on that line. And what we decided would be better would to tap that line, run that 2-inch service, abandon the line in between those, and then doing that, adding a couple more valves for control. So ends up being a change that's beneficial, but also one that reduces liability and potential damage in the future of having somebody make a mistake and overpressurize a zone we don't want to have become a problem.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments, questions?
I do have a question, Mayor.
Yes,
On-
Councilmember Cox.
Thank you. On this change order, has the language within the change order indicated that it has already been completed? Is it pending completion or has it been completed already?
No, it has not been completed. So it's
Okay.
being approved by you guys as well as the SRF and DEQ in order to be a valid change order.
Okay. Thank you. There was some language within it that indicated that, or alluded to the fact that it had maybe already started or had been completed. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Item P, authorize the mayor to sign the Lander Facilities Master Plan Assessment for Professional Services in the amount of $36,700. And we'll do again, call for the, motion in a second, and then get more information.
Mayor, move authorization.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Stubble. Seconded by Councilmember Larson. And Lance, is this also back to you?
Sure, I'd be happy to take it. So this is a add-on for heirs, and what we're looking at is a facilities assessment, specifically looking for targets. Does it make sense to hold on to properties such as Public Works and the Garfield Shop, other valuable properties, or to look at consolidating some of our investments for the future? We look at those as being in potential residential or multifamily zones, and something that you could think about selling and building somewhere else. Those facilities, especially the Garfield Shop, is one that's coming due soon. So we want to have some information in front of you so that you can make a decision on if we're going to rebuild or reinvest in facilities as a location they exist today, or if we're looking at doing something different in the future on consolidation. So this would get us a plan that hopefully helps answer that decision that we could present to you, and then helps make decisions in the future on facilities.
Great. Questions for Lance? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm excited for this. I'm really looking forward to the outcomes and what they come up with. I'm glad we're pursuing it. I have some questions on page 2. We don't have a date. There's a question mark about completion.
The summer.
Yeah, end of the fiscal year, maybe summer. Those are kind of different things. And we've had some positive examples of working with heirs. And we've had some timeframes missed with them as well lately. I like that we have an existing relationship with staff contacts. We don't have to recreate any of that. But anyway, what are we looking for completion date?
Anybody else have an answer to that one? I'm not sure I have an
Regine?
answer for you on
Regine?
that.
Okay.
And so that would be a Regine question. I thought
Yep.
this was going to happen with bringing them back to do the assessment within the next few weeks, and then trying to get them to move this along so we'd have it within 3 to 6 months. So that was my understanding. I guess that date needs to be filled in. So if we want to, I guess what can we do with that? Yeah, I guess do it.
Move approval.
You could
pending,
conditionally approve it pending a date that would be included at a later time.
Totally, which I trust Mayor, you and the staff to figure out an appropriate one, ASAP, but not, but reasonable given what we've seen from them on timeframes.
Great. And this is one of the things I'll note that with our attorney's suggestion that even though this is under that $75,000 threshold, is something that it needs to be signed by the mayor, that it should be brought forward in front of council. So again, an effort to continue to increase our level of transparency. That's why this is on the council agenda for that.
If
So-
you are going to conditionally approve this, you'll have to amend your motion.
Okay.
Mayor, I amend my motion to authorize your signature on this, and I'll know, let's see what I'm doing here. So I move that we move authorization for, for you to sign the Lander Facilities Master Plan Assessment for professional services in the amount of $36,700, pending you arrive at a satisfactory and reasonable date for the completion of the assessment. Adam?
Great. So we need a second for that.
I second agree. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Seconded by Councilmember Larson. So let's call for the question, starting with Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Okay, that was the amendment. So now for the overall, we'll do the same thing. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 And yes.
Yes.
Great. Both pass amendment and the overall. Next is accepting the resignation of Kristen Yunan from the Planning Commission. That was submitted via email and added to our council packet as well as we have the motion there, or her copy there. So could I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Danhon,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Stubble. Comment or question?
Mayor, if I may, just a quick comment of gratitude for Kristen, for Ms. Yunon, for serving not only in the Planning Commission, but honestly, she's served the city of Lander for decades and decades, working in the Bureau of Land Management and doing planning work for our public lands in this region. So, but particularly specific to her Planning Commission work, she is a thoughtful, data-based, very research-heavy type of person. I know she brought probably great gravity to the deliberations, and I'm grateful that she offered to serve in this position. We wish her well. I wish her well.
Agreed. And that whole board is one that works very hard and puts in a lot of time. And Ms. Yunan was even head and shoulders above that crowd, and her very thoughtful data perspective was really invaluable. So, yeah. Call for the question, Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Moving on, accept and authorize the mayor to sign the fixed property damage release for claim number 24-870-798-462 for $4,227.43. Original claim amount of $4,326.74, a difference of $99.31 for utility pole damage. I get a motion and a second, please.
Move to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Larson,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. I'm not sure who takes this one.
That would probably be me. This represents the utility pole that was demolished on, across from Safeway by the wonderfully made salon. So on Lincoln, I think it's Lincoln and Maine, there was a car accident there a couple months ago, and unfortunately that light post was completely demolished. I called and talked to the insurance company of the driver and submitted an invoice for the light pole because it was irreparable, and that amount for the light pole replacement was the $4,326.74. They had reached their policy limits, so they offered a settlement which is about $100 less than the cost of the pole.
Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, call for the question. Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 All right, next, moving on to S, appointment of interim Lander Police Chief Kelly Waugh and administration of oath of office effective April 19th, 2025. I get a motion and a second.
Mayor. Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Dan Hahn, seconded by Councilmember Stubble for that. And we'll in a second have Adam administer the oath. One thing I wanted to note, being new to this position and new to this whole process, while I certainly trust Chief Peters and his perspective and his hopes for Captain Waugh to move into this position, I wanted to do my due diligence as well and spoke with previous employers for Captain Waugh, and they had great things to say. You know, some of the notable comments was being a strong leader and supervisor, being very mission focused, worked hard to achieve goals of the department, holds people accountable, and is very focused on, you know, making sure that things continue to progress. We're seeing that internally in our department as well, with things like giving our sergeants having monthly goals to try to achieve. So I'm pleased with being able to make this nomination. So other comments, questions from council before oath is administered?
Mayor, I'll say thank you. Taking on extra duties, I really appreciate it. I'm glad that we'll have continuity in the direction and visions for the department. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Then.
I do have just a couple of questions on the
Yes.
process really quick. So I don't know if you were able to touch base with WASCOP or not by way of moving forward. So once the interim appointment is voted on, are we opening the position? What does that look like moving forward?
Can't give you a whole lot of details. I appreciate the question, but yes, it will be an open position.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're ready.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Before we go, Councilman Josh Hahn has a question.
Sorry, yeah, I was, so if that creates an opening for a position, is he allowed to, if somebody else gets that position, is he allowed to at least go back to being captain, or where does that leave him? Just
Correct.
as a protection
Correct.
thing?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming, any law related to my election. Or appointment. For cause to be done by others. That I will discharge the duties of my office. Interim Minor Chief of Police. With fidelity.
Thank you for that. Lastly, item T, authorize the removal of Chief Peters from the Police Department Itinerant Fund. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved, Mayor.
Moved by Councilmember Stubble,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Any questions? Okay, we'll call for the question, starting with Councilmember Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Last but not least, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Do it.
Mayor, I move we, there you go. Councilman Larson.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Larson,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Stubble. Call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Wonderful. Thank you all.